No, you can't. Sanity is all I have left. A mind is a terrible thing to lose.
The Joker gets phenomenal cosmic powers and uses them to kill Batman again and again and again. Sounds about right. And that is the extreme Cliff Notes version of Emperor Joker. Holding it upside down. Yeah, I am, because it's got a playing card cover. Emperor Joker. The Emperor Joker episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold was adapted from a comic storyline collected under the same name. Only it wasn't a Batman story, it was a Superman story. And a very off-the-rails one at that. The episode breaks the storyline down to its core elements, which works because there were a lot of moving parts to this story. It's interesting in terms of tying everything together in the comic world, but in terms of adaptation, it makes sense to parse it down a bit. That happens a lot with things by Jeff Loeb. There's some Jeff Loebness in this. The episode takes the parts that work for it and jettisons the rest. And the result is a very satisfying, reference-heavy, and surprisingly gruesome episode.
He was the best arch-nemesis a sociopath could ask for! Okay, let's do it again!
You can get away with a lot if there's no blood and a tasteful cutaway. There's so many cool little Easter eggs in this episode, it's a fun one to highlight. So let's take a look at it and the comic it owes its creation to. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and get ready for references. Emperor Joker is the 19th episode of the second season of Batman the Brave and the Bold. It originally aired in 2010 and was written by Stephen Melching and directed by Ben Jones. The whole episode from teaser onward is just stacked with callbacks. We're going back to the classic eras of Batman, which was very common on this show. We start off by going back to the Silver Age with the teaser. In the episode, it sets itself up as one of Batman's greatest cases. When the show calls back to past Batman, it oftentimes sets that in the Silver Age, which makes sense both narratively and conceptually. In this case, it highlights the Rainbow Batman, an issue we gave its own video on this channel. Batman wearing different colored bat suits is from Detective Comics 241, but the rainbow monster who he fights, who also features in this teaser, is from Batman 134. This teaser takes elements from both stories and frankens them together. It makes something new, but also something that makes sense, for one would assume that the rainbow bat costume would have to do with the rainbow monster, but it doesn't. In actuality, Batman in the comics wore different color costumes, and eventually a rainbow one is a distraction from the fact that Dick had injured his arm. This and his civilian identity, and he'd ID'd some crooks while that was happening, and so he was trying to find them as Robin. And Batman didn't want anybody to notice that Robin also had a hurt arm, particularly since they were hunting that specific criminal. And what better way to distract someone than with extravagant fashion? I like the bullseye outfit, and that one always gets overlooked. Really, I like to think he has had these different costumes waiting around, was just waiting for an opportunity. Now as for the rainbow monster, it was attacking a small village that was also being threatened by a dictator. It had a different power for each color, which is showcased in the episode.
Each color has its own strange power.
But the episode has Firefly controlling it and even creating it from a color belt, which is an odd choice. That's not really something you normally associate with Firefly. If there was ever a time for the Rainbow Raider, this was it. But for the purposes of what they're doing for this very quick snippet, it works. Batman is wearing his rainbow costume in this to be able to deflect these color attacks because they don't work on something the same color. It's both sillier and more intuitive than the stories it takes these concepts from. Our episode proper opens on the throwback to the Bronze Age, with the Ten-Eyed Man, who we've done a couple of videos on this channel. His entire history is succinctly explained by Bat-Mite, who pops up to observe/bother Batman.
The Ten-Eyed Man? Cool!
Did you hear that?
Unfortunately.
Oh, Ten-Eyed Man. So ludicrous. I love you so. Bat-Mite's little meta reference that this is one of the things that fans like, these obscure villains popping up, it's true. Bat-Mite first debuted in Detective Comics 267 in 1959 in the story called Batman Meets Bat-Mite. He was also featured on the cover, and the Silver Age inspired art of Batman Brave and the Bold series means he looks very close to his original iteration. Like Mr. Mxyzptlk, he was an imp from the 5th dimension, though in his first appearance it just says from another dimension. And he got Batman into all sorts of shenanigans. He was retired during the Silver Age by editor Julius Schwartz as part of his push to get rid of the sillier aspects of the Batman series. He had a silly threshold and Bat-Mite was past it. So was OG Batwoman and OG Batgirl Betty Kane. Just like in the episode we're about to take a look at, Bat-Mite in the comics is a big fan of Batman and wants to be involved in / help him with his adventures. Mishaps then ensue. The show recasts this concept only slightly in giving him modern aspects of a superfan, while also using his extra dimensionary knowledge as a way to sneak in all kinds of meta references and information. So Bat-Mite can be various things at different points. He's an amalgam of several concepts. Usually when he gets meta, he serves as a mouthpiece for the creators, to tongue-in-cheekily poke fun at extremely obsessive fans, or at corporate / network interference. As the show did receive some fan backlash upon first release, and a bit throughout for having such a different tone, and for leaning so heavily into the Silver Age in those aspects. It's not constant, Bat-Mite is still also a character. And it did face some behind-the-scenes hurdles as well, as most shows do. Bat-Mite is reading a real who's who in this scene, where Batman is fighting fighting Ten-Eyed Man, and his contribution of cactus to stop him is pretty great.
Ten-Eye, catch.
What? My eyes! My eyes!
Now Batman is as usual not in the mood for Bat-Mite's antics, and he asks him why is he so obsessed with him, which launches Bat-Mite down a path of, well, Batman's also obsessed with somebody, and that's the Joker. Only, I mean, not really. Twist that, flip it, reverse it. This is amusing since that's still just Bat-Mite being obsessed with the rivalry between the two. He even has a special room dedicated to it. A mannequin room. How Silver Age. It's more trophy room, but there are mannequins in it, it counts. This room is just packed with Easter eggs. From models of Joker fish, the Joker mobile and copter, famous covers like Batman 251 from 1973, Denny O'Neil's story, Neil Adams cover. Rendered famous not just because it's an iconic cover, but also for the story within, being the one to return Joker to his killer roots. The Joker had been a killer during the Golden Age, but he had barely been used during the Silver Age because of the restrictions of the comics code. The appearances he did make, seemingly stemming off of the character's popularity of the Batman 66 TV series, where he was portrayed by Cesar Romero, long live the green mustache, those limited appearances were very, very jokey and leaned into the Silver Age antics hard. It was a very non-threatening Joker. Jimmy Olsen even managed to collect his tears that one time. Jimmy Olsen. Although I shouldn't joke, because Silver Age Jimmy was a terrifying force of nature. He'll drink your tears, or use them to create a weapon of some kind. So that issue, 251, opened with the Joker having killed a man. It was a sharp pivot and one that stuck. One of the several cementations of the Bronze Age in that year of 1973. R.I.P. Gwen Stacy. Now that Batman issue also brings back the idea that Batman's villains are housed in an asylum/mental hospital. It was something that the Golden Age had mentioned, although it wasn't named Arkham at that point, but the Silver Age had done away with it. It was just prison. So this issue would reintroduce the concept, and it would reappear named Arkham, firmly cementing Arkham Asylum in the lore in Batman 258. Another cover on this wall is Batman number 11 from 1942, which features the story The Joker's Advertising Campaign. We also have this Brave and the Bold issue, 191 from 1982. That one was deeper in the memory banks. It took me a while to remember where I'd seen it. This whole sequence is a very blink and you'll miss that pan, and time of recording the references hadn't been collected anywhere. So I wanted to put them out there, because I think they're interesting. Because I'm a nerd and I think stuff like this is cool. It is cool. I'm right. It's the kids who are wrong. That last one, the Brave and the Bold one, has the story Only Angels Have Wings, and it's one of those Batman the Joker have to work together stories, because the Joker is framed for murder. It's one of the ones where you have to pause and think about Batman's ethics. It's interesting. There are also dioramas that play out iconic moments and still more covers, like the one of Joker making his own utility belt, which was from Batman 73 from 1952. The story inside has a diagram of Joker's utility belt, and it's just a joy. Hand buzzer, squirting police badge, itching powder capsules, playing cards. He's prepared to prank. He has a license for fun. No, he has a license to annoy, that's for sure though. There's the Laughing Fish cover, Detective Comics 475, 1978. The Laughing Fish Batman TAS episode from the 90s series adapts this, but it takes part of this comic as well as Batman 251 for that episode. It's another frankening. The last diorama here is the most memorable to most fans. It's dead Jason Todd from the Death in the Family story arc, and they mention the fan vote and everything. Very meta. I'm more surprised that Batman doesn't react to dead Jason. Maybe this is something that only the audience has been to hear. Maybe he's just used to tuning out Bat-Mite's antics. Maybe he's just over it. That was a long time ago. We're grieving the latest Robin to have died now. Bat-Mite is looking to set up a new diorama, but that means that he needs a new Batman-Joker fight, and an iconic one too. But Joker is safely in Arkham, so to facilitate something happening, Bat-Mite busts him out, uses his powers to do it. Cue snap. That was such a poor snap. Let's try again. Cue snap. And so the Joker escapes from Arkham, and he's got silent movie comedian looking henchmen. They're even black and white. He also has Harley, who's black and white, but a flapper. Flapper Harley. Missed opportunity to make her look like Queenie from the Golden Age, the first woman to team up with the Joker, along with those other playing card people. They're almost like a proto-royal flush gang. R.I.P. Queenie, you are more than a sidekick, but less than an equal. Also, she would go on to be called the Black Queen, which is a cool name. Now, Bat-Mite promises Batman that he'll stay out of this fight. So when things start to go against Batman, he gets the terrible idea that he will give him his powers so that he can defeat the Joker. But he misses and he hits the Joker instead. And so our Emperor Joker plot can begin. Now, the vantage point of the Emperor Joker comic is different, which takes place for the most part from Superman's perspective as he tries to navigate the world and figure out what happened. We get some moments from the Joker, but it's not an equal balance. We get to see things like some of the other heroes, a Lois Lane who's taken on Lex's role and is bald and she has a wig room. She's living my dream. Wig room. The manservants is further than I'd like, but I would like the wig room. We don't get to see the Joker make this world. Superman comes into it and he's stuck in a loop, but his powers allow him to regain awareness and escape it, and navigate this mad Joker world, which is used as an opportunity by the writers and artists to just go ham. This is the comic where the Joker eats China and makes a comment about Peking duck. What a time. Emperor Joker came out in the year 2000 across multiple titles. And they were, I don't know why I did that, I guess because it's royal, my liege. Anyway, the titles were Superman 160, The Adventures of Superman 582, Superman, the Man of Steel 104, Action Comics 769. Yes, we're in the era of lots of Superman titles. The Triangle Era. The one that people will tell you was super easy to follow if you were reading as it was happening. But I assure you, until you get a system and know what the order is, if something wasn't collected in a trade and you're looking for it, until you get that system, Godspeed. When I first started researching things and trying to look around, I found it difficult. Maybe that's just me, but it took me a minute. I actually had to write it down like a flowchart. This issue, then this issue, and then once you have that, you're good. But for the first little bit, especially if you don't know about the Triangle Era, it's confusing. At some point, if you're just getting into it, you might not know about the Triangle Era. Anyway, there's more. The other issues were The Emperor Joker #1, a one-shot, Superman 161, The Adventures of Superman 583, Superman, the Man of Steel 105, and Action Comics 770.
In that order.
It has been collected in trade. I love this trade. It's a wild ride. It's also one of my daughter's favorite comics, and that definitely counts for something with me. It also means that it's getting dirtier and dirtier. That's okay. It's loved. These are love crumbs. Now, as mentioned, the episode really only takes a few parts of this. In the comics, the Joker gets these powers from Mr. Mxyzptlk, who had the terrible idea of seeing what someone normal would do with 1% of his powers. He then, for some reason, chaos reasoning, chose the Joker, and the Joker managed to trick him into giving him 99% of his powers instead of the 1%, and then proceeded to go Emperor Joker. In the episode, we get to see him remake the world, as he instantly takes the powers and sings a song. It's called Where's the Fun in That? And it does well to encapsulate the Joker's worldview, and the subtle prank imagery and distortion of architecture is interesting to watch. It's a fun sequence. And the parts where Batman is hovering in this empty white space as Joker remakes everything is well done. Him making his space out of playing cards, meaning it's a literal house of cards, is nice visual symbolism for how unstable his universe is. Now, aside from topsy-turvy wacky, what reason is given for the Joker remaking the universe? Well, in the comics, aside from getting some kicks out of messing with people on the loop with things like Lex and him eventually becoming his jester, Aquaman being a literal fish, him getting to kill Batman every day and bring him back to life. There's also a philosophical element that comes in a bit later on. A question about how a universe that could allow a person like the Joker to exist didn't deserve to exist. Because by the end, the Joker's universe was so unstable, it was collapsing in on itself, and he felt that that was right. The episode, by contrast, aside from moving the powers from Mix to Bat-Mite, since it's going for a Batman rewrite, takes away any grand questions about whether a universe that can breed a Joker deserves to exist. And instead it leads with the Joker killing Batman over and over and over. The Joker's made an elaborate Rube Goldberg machine, that's probably an oxymoron, to take down Batman. This even includes Batman escaping as part of the design, which is pretty funny.
Nice try, Joker.
This episode gets away with so much because it keeps it over the top cartoonish. But really, you're just watching Batman be brutally murdered on repeat. By contrast, in the comic, we don't see Batman as much. Superman has to track him down, and he's dead when he finds him, at first. But it isn't until towards the end when Superman encounters him that he realizes that Batman's been being killed over and over, and just the extent of it and how much it's damaged him. There is a sequence where we get to see Batman being pecked to death by birds. It's Prometheus reference, the Greek myth, not the questionable Alien sequel. Because Batman is stuck in eternal torment like Prometheus, he's been condemned by essentially a god. Birds are killing him. Now in the episode, there are lots of funny visual sight gags outside of the Emperor Joker stuff. The buff comedians, classics. You have the tiny Jack Nicholson looking Joker summoned to fight Bat-Mite, as well as Bat-Mite ending up in Harley's original costume. It's him and Harley who team up to try and stop Joker because they're lamenting how the various objects of their obsession aren't paying attention to them. Because Joker does not pay attention to Harley while he's really focused on Batman, to the point where he doesn't heed her warning that it seems like Batman is playing him when he says that he wants to give up, which Joker takes as an invitation to go into his mind, to make him insane, to take away his pain and suffering, but that he's still gonna kill him over and over anyway. He's so fixated that he can't see that Batman is only pretending to be broken.
I can't take it anymore, Joker. Put me out of my misery. There's nothing more you can do to me. Except take away my sanity.
This is a nice twist on what happened in the actual comic, in of which Batman truly did break because of what happened to him. He was not okay after all that torture. The panels at the end of the issues of him just huddled on the ground trembling are some of the strongest in the story. The way it plays out afterwards, though, to reinforce God-tier level Clark, a bit less so. God-tier emotional Clark. Because Clark just takes on All that trauma from Bruce, all those memories. And there's this moment where he tells Bruce to damn his pain that he has to. It's just oddly handled. Like Bruce isn't allowed to break. Superman just has dying Bruce's memories in his head for a bit till the next reboot / retcon. But it's fine because they don't impact him in any way because he's just that awesome. But then why do it? Why did you do it? In the episode, it's a trap. Joker silences Harley, which allows Bat-Mite to grab the silent movie placards she now produces when she speaks. They use them to beat enemies. It's clever and cute. Inside Batman's mind, the Joker is lured deeper and deeper until Batman can spring a trap. Psychological analysis. Joker can't navigate through Batman's mind. It's too fortified, too organized. He's not able to just tear it apart. This allows Batman to pull Joker into his ideal world. The Joker's, that is, which is ostensibly a world without Batman. Now, the episode doesn't go down the route it could have, which is what if Batman never existed? Then there wouldn't have been a Joker, for the creation is intertwined. Instead, it goes with the Joker going sane hypothesis. Batman going sane was a storyline from the Legends of the Dark Knight comic. It spanned issues 65 to 68. It lasted from late 1994 to early 1995. In it, the Joker believes that he has killed Batman. But as a result, he snaps. There's no one left to battle, and so as a result, he goes sane and forgets being the Joker. This is the type of outcome Batman shows the Joker in his mind. The character the Joker becomes even looks a little like Joseph Kerr, or Joker. This theory is reinforced by the episode itself in that the Joker couldn't let Batman stay dead. He had to keep killing him over and over. This realization causes the Joker's mind to fray, and he loses control of the powers, so they flow back into Bat-Mite. This is a very similar climax to the original, only in that it's Superman talking with the Joker and making him realize that Batman is the center of his universe, the point where he can't erase him. No matter what else he changes, Batman remains a constant. Now, while the imagery of this moment is very cool, it's not quite as strong because the connection that Superman and the Joker share isn't as strong. It also feels a bit more abrupt because the stakes and the ramp up in the comic series was a lot longer, so it feels a bit more like, oh, we're done. But like the episode, this snaps Joker out of it. And Superman, Mr. Mxyzptlk and his powers, and the Spectre remake the universe. One curious thing to ponder about the episode's ending is, does Batman actually think that if he vanished the Joker would be sane? Or does he think the Joker thinks that? Because in the comic, this is something that the Joker does believe, and Superman just really brings it to his attention, makes him face it. But the dynamic is changed if it's Batman bringing this up. It's just curious. In the episode, the Joker mentions a deep-seated fear of being ordinary.
Please just let me go back to being me. I can't be average.
There's also something worth mining there. You don't necessarily have to mine it with the Joker though. Let's give Punchline something to do. I'm still rooting for Punchline. Now, in both the comic and the episode, the Joker ends up a catatonic drooling mess. So the episode cuts away to a thrilled Bat-Mite because that little Joker is still there and he can use him as an arch nemesis.
Hey, you're right! Thanks, Batman! How'd you like to go to the 5th dimension?
In the comic, Clark returns to a no longer topsy-turvy world and has some time with Lois, and remains unbothered by experiencing Bruce's excruciating death over and over. Me, Rakash. That probably didn't sound as good as it could have. I'm not ready for the Black Lodge in Twin Peaks. Speaking backwards is not my forte. Emperor Joker is a great fit for the Brave and the Bold series, and they have a lot of fun with it. The adaptation does showcase how much extra material there was in the comic, because they are able to boil so much away to get down to this core essence. But as mentioned, all of that extra works in the comic context because it's tying into all the different Superman things and the overall larger universe in general in this medium, whereas it has to be narrowed given the context of the episode that it's working in. Although changing it from a Superman story to a Batman story does make sense. Not that making it a Superman story in the first place was a terrible idea, because villains do occasionally play around with other heroes, and it does make it interesting to see what they do to make Joker a big grand threat for Superman. But I do feel it works better as a Batman story. But that's just my opinion, let me know yours. The comic has some great imagery, and that idea translates well into the episode, which has some of its own. The episode just ends up being a fun homage, but also brings in many other elements. The things that make sense to the story remain, and overall it's a good experience. The references are the best kind, that they make sense to the story and enhanced it if you recognize them, but didn't take away from the story if you didn't. It's a fun episode, and the arc it hails from is madcap and worth checking out. It's interesting, although admittedly potentially impenetrable. It depends. If you don't gel with the tone and some of the jokes, it might be very off-putting. That can be fun if that's your thing. But Jeff Loeb is not for everybody. A lot of times he just goes and swings for the fences. You'll notice that many of the adaptations that have sprung from his work end up being really parsed down. They did the same thing with Superman and Batman Public Enemies. Also a little bit with the follow-up one they adapted. Its name's eluding me at the moment. Supergirl, Hot Girl Summer. That's my title. This story has its own set of callbacks though that are worth looking into it for. It's not just the wig room. You get giant turtle boy Jimmy Olsen. And you know, if you've been on this channel, I love Jimmy Olsen turning into stuff. But I've rambled on long enough. That was Emperor Joker. What did you think of it? Did you like this episode? Did you like this arc? Were you aware of it? Do you think it works better as a Batman story or as a Superman story? What episode or story should we look at next? Tell me your thoughts down below. And while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.